Friends, welcome to the online webinar of IFA Galaxy. Good afternoon, and hope all of y'all are safe and your families are safe and indoors. And the most important thing at this point in time, although we are wealth managers, I think the most important thing currently is the health. And I would like to first begin by making sure that all of y'all are safe and maintain safe distance and don't venture out unless it is absolutely necessary. Friends, over the last month, most of us have been, all of us for that matter, whichever part of the country we are from, have been indoors largely. And we have been kind of sitting trying to figure out life, and our own industry has been going through a lot of difficulty thanks to financial markets which have been in turmoil. Oil yesterday hit a all-time low, 20-year low. Stock markets have hit a record low as well in terms of things. These are difficult times, and these are, one is of course we are not able to work. The other thing is that we have to continue to handhold customers and manage their aspirations as well. So to do all that and to kind of equip us for life as it is, we have a very interesting talk. And today, more than any time, it's very, very important that we are emotionally and mentally prepared. You know, one of the main challenges of COVID-19 is that being inside our respective homes, not being able to go out and do what we normally did, presents a great opportunity, great disadvantage to all of us in terms of, uh, one second, please. I think my audio is a bit weak, so I will try and speak a little slowly. So it presents a little bit of a problem for all of us in terms of doing what we need to do. But it also has an opportunity. And the opportunity is that today we can go out there and prepare plans so that we can succeed in the future. And that's really what the series of IFA Galaxy's webinars are going to be. The webinars are going to focus on trying to get ideas across which we can take over and implement in our lives to become more successful independent financial advisors. And I have pleasure to start the first speaker today, who is going to talk to us about how to emotionally prepare and succeed post COVID-19. And it's my pleasure to introduce Purnima Rajan. Purnima Rajan has been known to me for 20 plus years. Her father is a dear friend and a client of mine, Dr. Rajan. She herself is a clinical psychologist and a neuro psychologist. And I have a brief profile that I want to read out to you. She's fairly young, but accomplished at a very young age. Is a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist with a private practice in the Agada Hospital, T Nagar, Chennai. She has more than 4 years of experience in clinical experience in mental health and neuro rehabilitation, graduating from the Department of Clinical Psychology, National Institute of Empowerment of People with Multiple Disabilities, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. She is trained and specialized in-depth psychological testing, personality profiling, neuropsychological rehabilitation, individual and long-term psychotherapy. She is a visiting lecturer at the Department of Clinical Psychology at NIEPMD, Chennai, from which she graduated. Ms. Rajan is the founder of Precision Mental Health, a mental health clinic in Chennai that specializes in providing psychological services for adults and their families. The clinic offers a wide array of psychological services from assessments, therapy, rehabilitation, academics, and research. She is also the founding member and the clinical psychologist in the Dementia Care Foundation, a not-for-profit organization focused on improving the quality of care for elders with dementia. The prime objective of this organization is to build sustainable models for dementia care and also improve community awareness and support towards dementia. Along with a clinical practice, Ms. Purnima Rajan is the project director of HILFEM, if I'm pronouncing it right, uh, 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 an online platform for mental health first aid. The platform was built to provide access for adequate mental health guidance for adolescents and adults in India, and as to what the needs to be done to help resolve one's emotional distress. The online platform is run by a NGO called Edirkol. With no more ado, I'm going to introduce, I'm not going to stand between Purnima and the rest of us. I am as eager as you are to listen to her. Over to you, Purnima. Thank you so much. Before I kind of leave the floor to you, uh, we have in excess of 82 people, as I can see now in the call. And these are people from all across India. They're not just in Chennai, they're not in one locality, they are across. IFA Galaxy is a galaxy of star investment advisors across a wide geography of India. So with that, I'd like to get this started. Over to you, Purnima. Please take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's indeed relevant and very pertinent topic. It helps identify where we can begin to, manage the emotional struggles that also comes as a part of the whole pandemic, and how we can go about strengthening ourselves, as well as, being able to provide the care and support which our clients would need. So if there are any questions, kindly do write them down either in the chat comment, so that I can address it as at the end of the talk as well. So to begin, the topic that is given is how to emotionally prepare yourself to succeed after post-COVID. So the structure of the talk, one second, yes. So the content of the talk usually will come under these headings. So the first is the essential take-home points of COVID. So to a large extent, we have a good understanding of what the pandemic is about, what is causing the pandemic. And the thing that we are a little unclear about is the timeline of what it is, because so much information is present, and it's, I think, to all of us, this is the first experience. We probably have read about these in our history textbooks, but we've never really experienced it. And so the essential take-home points from COVID from a psychological perspective. The emotions during uncertainty from the advisor's perspective, what you can expect for yourself, as well
Purnima,
as
one
what you can
request I
expect from
have.
your client. Yes,
Purnima, one
yes.
request, if you can take the share screen off temporarily so that you are visible to them. I believe they are not able to see you. So if you can kind of take the share
Okay,
screen off, you will
right.
be visible. After, when you start the
Okay.
presentation, you can. And one request to all the participants is, since the bandwidth is a little issue, if you can go off the video mode, it will provide more bandwidth to all of us. Yeah?
Okay.
Great.
So is this clear?
Yeah.
So, hello?
Go
Hello?
ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So, like I had mentioned earlier, that we're going to be talking a little bit about how to be emotionally stronger and how to cope with the current difficulties that we're having. So, we're going to also be talking about how we can collectively understand what difficulties we are facing and what the client is facing, and how we can probably learn from those emotions and make our careers stronger as well. Right. So to begin, I'm just going to share the screen now so that we can begin the presentation. Just one second. So is it clear? Can everybody see?
Yeah, yes, clear.
Okay. Just one second. Right. So I would always like to begin with this quote. It's something that I use very often in sessions as well. Our own mind becomes our enemy if we don't know how to control it. And that's exactly what this topic is going to cover. So the COVID pandemic, what is it about? What is about this pandemic that makes it very difficult for us is the different psychological or psychosocial impact that you can actually see from COVID comes under different headings. One is, of course, health anxiety. So the initial time when we came to identify that, COVID is something more than just a mere cold or a mere fever, or that, it's something that we don't have a treatment modality for. The first initial reaction is definitely health anxiety. So we are worried about our own health. We are worried about the health of our family members, of our colleagues, and everyone else. Why is this complicated when compared to other diseases that are also present? One, because the source of source warm and therefore scary. There are very common symptoms like your cold, your fever, your cough. So one of the most common concerns that we have addressed in the initial phase of the lockdown was that yes. So one of the major concerns that a lot of people have asked is that because COVID symptoms have been presenting with fever and cough, we're actually afraid to cough as well, because if we cough, then we might get infected and so on. So the cure is currently debatable. There are many different versions that they're using. We have been talking about anti-malarial medicines being helpful. But when we talk about 100% curative component, there is really very sure that we get at least a minimum of 20 forwards on our WhatsApp group and Facebook, which which talks about, there are this many people who have COVID, and near in the area that we are present as well, there's a lot. Like, I'm currently in zone 9, so there's about almost 55 to 60 people here. So that constant thing that is very alarming. The global reaction, so I think like what Babu sir had just from the entire global community as well. Some people are taking the necessary steps, some of them are being careless, some of them are being rude, and so on and so forth. So there is a mixed emotion that is present all over. So therefore, there's no proper ability or an internal ability to gauge, saying, are we doing things right? Are we doing things wrong? And so there's a lot of room for misinformation as well. So anything and everything can become either a support system or something that can become a threat. So I think also in the first part of our um, uh, lockdown, I think there was this entire bunch of information that came about talking about vitamins and immune system and nilavembu juice and all of these things. So all of these are very, confusing, and especially at a very uncertain time like now, these can be very confusing as well. And it's something that all of us do go through. The timeline of the pandemic itself is a source of stress that a lot of people do face because of the uncertainty. We initially talked. Hello. We initially wondered as to whether it would be a 2 week phenomenon, a 3 week phenomenon. Some countries are in lockdown for 2 months and so on. So the changing timelines based on the statistics can also be a source of concern. And from the restrictions, both the pros and cons of restrictions, we can see what does savings mean? Using savings that, the money that we probably have saved. Yes. The money that we have saved, which we wanted to use, let's say 2 years from now or even 6 months from now, because of the circumstances, we are forced to use it immediately and so on. So, such kind of changes or the disruption in our day to day routine can be a major source of stress as well. Misinformation and mishandling of the pandemic, especially, I think if there's the quality of the protective gear that is present and so on. So there's mishandling of resources as well. And of course, there are a lot of conspiracy theories as to what's happening. Was this on purpose? Was this not on purpose? And so on. So depending on how often you are exposed to this conversation, or how often you engage in this, or how often you are presented with this information, each time you do hear information regarding COVID, it can add to a level of a psychological load, which may or may not help in the long run. Survival. So we are all in a survival mode. What has happened is, one of the with medical advances, if you look at history itself, with medical advances, what we have noticed is that a lot of the infectious conditions have always had a cure. So, for a very long time, for a couple of decades now, we've never really thought about how an infectious disease can, affect our day-to-day living. We've always thought that, antibiotics are there, everything will be fine. So over a period of time, all of us, every one of us, as children, we have only been taught and we have only been told to focus on the future and work backward. So a typical example would be like 5 years from now, I have to be in this position, or 5 years from now, I have to choose this particular occupation. And then we work backwards and decide, for me to be there, I have to do this today. So that's the kind of mentality and mindset is how we have been doing for the past 30 years or so, mainly because we have never had to consider something an element that can disrupt our needs completely. But what we are increasingly aware or made to feel aware of is that we are at a very survival based presence. We are not in a place we can think about the future, but everything with changing, it makes more sense that we are present in a survival based mode. So from a thought perspective also, we have to reevaluate various aspects of our day-to-day life, such as what we need to survive versus what are the things that we think we want to survive. So a very typical example would to kind of help us through this is, for a long period of time, majority, especially my generation, are very dependent on outside foods and Swiggy and Zomato and Uber and so on. But what we have come to realize during the lockdown is that we can survive nonetheless. We are capable of cooking, we are capable of learning how to cook, and we can manage with what's there in the home as well. So what exactly constitutes to a need and what exactly becomes a want? So that variation, what are essentials and what are part of a lifestyle, as well as what constitutes to a growth and what is decline. So there are different psychological meanings that we hold to every action that we do, which during a survival mode would probably need to be redefined so that we will be able to cope with the resultant stress. And ultimately, the most common source of distress is, I don't have control over the situation. You don't have control over the situation. So whatever we do at this point, are we actually helping or are we not helping the situation? And if the government has said that at this point all you have to do is nothing, we have never had doing nothing or being at home as a source of a solution. So it's very unnerving for us as well. And that's also why we struggle to find various other activities other than work to keep us occupied. Or if you were to ask, how do you spend your days, like you run out of options within the first 1 week, and that can also result to a whole you know uh, different feeling that you're being very inactive, who is otherwise a very active person. So what we must remember, what are the things that we have to keep in mind continuously throughout this, till the pandemic reaches to some near level of normalcy, is that the first and foremost is we shouldn't panic. Whether there's increase or decline in the markets, or whether there's an increase or decline in the statistics or the number of people who are affected and who are dying and so on, it's very important that we don't panic, because the second we hit the panic button, everything goes into a rush. Our adrenaline or our body's need for survival kicks in, and we can never think straight. So we do become very emotionally compromised, and any decisions taken during that time, there's a higher chance that it can be misleading or it can be very short-sighted. Second is, please understand that a pandemic of this sorts is the first for all of us. So a lot of the emotions that you yourself might be going through might also be shared by the people around as well. So it's also important that at any point you're feeling overwhelmed, or if you feel that you're handling it in your own house or in your own family circle, that you're handling it differently from what the other people are handling. It's important to communicate and see whether there are similar emotions going by, and also to address it. So different problems need different solutions. Like I mentioned earlier, the four major psychological components that I had mentioned. Similarly, the financial implications of a pandemic or the educational implications to a pandemic. Each of these are very separate problems. But what we often try, or what we're often misled to believe, is that the second the pandemic is complete everything is going to go back to normal. So I think it's important that we keep in mind that different problems have different solutions and try and break them down into more solvable solutions as opposed to looking at it as a major chunk. If you find if you find that your clients are doing the same, it is also important that you're able to help them themselves being able to handle the situation as opposed to feeling overwhelmed. And that can be one of the primary ways in which we can get through this entire pandemic in a good psychological health. So the necessary steps have to be taken, and currently we are taking it. So for everyone who's staying at home, for everyone who's advocating staying at home, for everyone who's advocating social distancing, for everyone who's advocating uh, proper hygiene, do give yourselves a big pat on the back, because that's one of the best things that we can be doing right now. We are in a place where we have to wait. So if we are used to having a jam packed day, and if you're used to being the most productive person in the in in your circle, this can make you feel extremely out of place, because it's like a car that is going at 70 or 80 kilometers per hour is like forced to hit the sudden brake. So it can cause a lot of feeling, but please remember that at this particular point the best source of action is waiting. So it's important that you continue to do that, and allow yourself to feel that you're actually doing an action as opposed to saying that you're whiling away your time. Dealing with the problem when we get it, and this becomes a very important component which a lot of people have difficulty managing. So like I mentioned earlier, that we do tend to have, or we are programmed to think about stuff that's going to happen in the future, and we do plan backwards. So what we also tend to do is that we also look into what are the difficulties we're facing now and project that also onto the future. So for example, right now I'm having a difficulty with this. My my overall revenue that I used to generate has brought down by half. So if this continues, then where am I going to go? So this habit of ours to extrapolate or to kind of think ahead, and it will start to look very gloomy moving forward. And that's not a very good coping mechanism, though it sounds like the right thing to do. Is that it can cause a lot of anxiety, and the anxiety can create the panic that I talked about. And like I mentioned earlier, panicking is not the best option that we have to do. It's important that we remember it, and when we remember it, we can advocate it better to our clients as well. Seeking support is as
Purnima, request.
important as solving
I've got a
yes.
Purni-
Hello.
can you speak up a little louder, please? Some people are having difficulty hearing you.
Difficulty hearing?
Yeah. So can you just speak
Okay.
up a little
Is
bit
this
more?
better?
Yeah, this is better.
Is this better?
Yeah, this is better. Please.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, seeking support is as important as support aspects. Like, for example, if you were to help your client through a period of distress, especially when you're breaking a bad news to them, it's also important that you take the support of others develop some level of solution to kind of help a more solution driven focus. So let's talk about a little bit about it. I will be covering various aspects of this during the course of my talk. So uncertainty, what exactly is this uncertainty doing to me? Now we're going to initially talk more about what are the individual emotions that we are experiencing. Please do realize that we are also experiencing this side by side. So clients aside, first let's take time and understand what we are going through. The first conflict, or the first uncertainty, or the disruption that happens is in our own role conflict. So to give you a very simple example, we all have a professional environment and a personal environment, right? So if there are people who work from home, then you have a separate room or office that is allocated for the same, or you have an office, clinic, company that you go to, and so on. But what happens in the lockdown is that we are given work from home. A lot of your clients will be given work from home, or you yourself will be given work from home. But all your person will act like a father or a son or a mother to the other members of the family. At the same time, maintain the professional boundaries and meet the professional demands. So that conflict can arise as you go more and more. From this time to this time, I knew my child will be taken care by the teacher. From this time to this time, I knew my child will be taken care by the tuition or by the sports professor. But now I have to do everything. And having to do everything can get overwhelming. So that is the first disruption to our life. The second is change in plans. We ourselves who set personal targets for us. Now, our plans are being changed because of this. Let it be upscaling your business, let it be taking a trip, let it be buying a car, all of those things. And if you are a person who has loans to pay, then that can also add to the stress as well. So what the most common thought that starts to generate inside of our mind is, I can't manage. 1 second. I can't. The first thought with role conflicts. I'm sorry. 1 second. Um, the first conflict comes that I can't manage everything all by myself. With change of plans, I can't take off or I can't take times off to manage the situation better. And that when you extrapolate into the future, saying currently times are hard. So if I have not following the plan that I set in my mind, there is a higher chance I will not be able to achieve my dreams. So what happens is that can create a huge emotional backdrop or worry inside of our mind, saying, I don't think I'll be able to complete what I set out to do. Rather than looking at it as probably I might have to postpone the dream for a couple of years, or if I have to postpone it for a little more time, there is a higher chance that we'll start to feel insecure about whether we will actually be able to achieve that dream or not. And if these emotions or if these experiences are going to be piling up, so we are currently in the fourth and a half week of lockdown and so on. So if these emotions or if these everyday struggles tend to pile up, there is a higher chance that we start to feel that we are failing. Because with the role conflict, what also comes is that you also start to become a little aware, saying that I used to be really productive from this time to this time, but I feel like my productivity or my satisfaction, which is a very subjective feeling, my satisfaction of how work or the kind of work or the parenting or in any role, I feel like I'm not doing the best. So if these start to snowball, what happens is we do have an experience that we might be failing in what we set out to do. And this is a very important experience that we have to understand and imbibe, because most of this becomes a fragment because of our day to day exposure, because of the uncertainty of the pandemic itself, and it's not necessarily based on any factual information that can corroborate this. So it's very important that we are able to break this cycle of thought if we are going to be able to cope with the not just the pandemic but also to succeed post pandemic as well. So what are the emotions that you experience? So one of the things that I like to do as a part of my talk is to kind of allow a little bit of time for introspection. So if any of you have a paper and pencil next to you, or if you have a computer on you, what I would like you to do is I would like you to take some time, a minute and a half, even during the course of the session or a little after the session as well, and write down what are the most common worries you are having when you're trying to approach your clients. I'm sure every one of you will have to have a conversation with your clients, and your clients will want to have a conversation with you as well, wondering what's happening and so on. So what, when you even think about having to talk to a person, it doesn't have to be all your clients, but I'm sure that especially intimidating for certain reasons. So when you feel that you have to talk to them, or you feel that they might call you at this time, or you're waiting to have a conversation, what are the most typical worries that tends to pop up with your clients or with your subordinates? Do you find yourself hesitating or procrastinating? This is a very important indicator to identify work, right? So what we have here is understanding our own emotions, our most common emotions. So There are two types that I would like to mention. One are what we call as internal struggles, which are based on the snowballing effect, which I talked about earlier. The first internal worry or distress is that how are we coping with the current situation? Are we managing it well? We do internally, how are we feeling? Are we actually believing that, or do we feel that given our own personal circumstances, this is that decision that you have to a sense of responsibility. So this, actually think about it, it is not ego is the question. So when either do we take up the responsibility, or do we give the responsibility or outsource the responsibility elsewhere, or in the place that I've been placed to take to ask who exactly is responsible for this, I don't have, or I'm not really sure. So such kind of positions, or putting you in the spotlight, can start to bring about a lot of negative emotions. The truth of the situation, or the truth of what we are dealing with, can hurt us even more than it can actually hurt the clients, because based on, you definitely have a much higher knowledge of how the market works, and to be able to understand, correlate it, take it for what it is, and then provide it to a client who may or may not understand the situation, can be much more hurtful than anything else. So them if dealing with these emotions individually is relatively more easier, but if you find that all of them are being put into the same basket, then it can start to get overwhelming. The most common worry that we all have is what I'd like to call as anticipation anxiety. So anticipation anxiety is this ability of us to be able to extrapolate what might happen. So we can do it at a very subtle factor, like, we might worry about what the client may react to. So I know this client, he's been with me for so long, so I know if I tell him this, he's going to react like this. But the more we start to engage in this kind of thoughts, mentally, in ways of rehearsing the speech to ourselves, the more we are going to start to get anxious about having that conversation. The second is, we also worry about what kind of questions that they might ask. There are many people who will ask questions for which you might have answers to, some we may not have answers to as well. So being put in a spot where, we genuinely don't have an answer or a solution, can get pretty overwhelming. We don't have complete information to make a fail proof plan. So moving forward, what do we do, or how do we plan, can be a little overwhelming as well, especially if you feel that, your client might ask you these questions. Do we also worry about credibility? So these are various things that none of us could anticipate or imagine. But when it comes to the same, very similar to responsibility, is the sense of credibility. So what happens to our reputation? Will our clients accept us? Will our clients trust us, and so on? So those can be very strong emotional reactions to being worried about how we might be perceived. We relate very strongly to what others are going through, because if you have a client, or if you are yourself experiencing a lot of difficulty, we can relate very strongly with what they are experiencing as well. And therefore, when it comes to a place where you have to help provide a solution, or to help provide a way forward, we might find ourselves stammering and staggering because we ourselves don't have a proper answer. So when these 5 points that I have mentioned, unconsciously or unconsciously, can run in the back of our mind, which can increase the feeling of anticipation, which over, like, in a bigger picture, can start to affect your emotional well-being as well as the confidence level. So let's start by beginning to break or isolate these thoughts for what it is. So please remember, it's easier to carry smaller chunks of stone as opposed to an entire boulder over your shoulder. So let's try and break them down. I personally am a huge foodie, so I'd like to use food as an analogy. So we have a bucket of chips with different flavors. Let's try and break down or categorize them based on flavors. So the first is the most common internal struggles is the worries with regards to future. So in relation to the previous exercise, if you have written down thoughts that you're concerned about, please try and break them down and categorize it into these aspects. Each thought can have one or more buckets, but it doesn't go beyond 2 to 3 buckets. The first is the worry about the future. How is it going to be? How is it going to be for us? How is it going to be for our clients? So these are the things that we have to worry about. So I'm not just making this up. These things have happened in the past, and therefore it's going to happen again. So we're going to be very, so we're going to be very worried about the future. Could we have estimated this better? Should we have used a different equation? So on. There's a lot of internal guilt that starts to ride upon them. If you find that your clients are equally having a hard time for various reasons, that feeling that we have somehow contributed to this and we could have contributed to this can also add an underlying guilt, which we often don't, we're not aware of. And because we're not aware of, it tends to fuel the cycle a little bit more. A lot of sadness because of the uncertainty and because of the complete disruption, fear as to exactly how things will go by, or even fear with regards to what are the other silent aspects of COVID that we are not yet aware of. The next is also anger, because this has caused a lot of pain and this has caused a lot of suffering for you as well as your people. So a lot of anger because of the injustice as well. So what are the different solutions that you can come by? And if you find yourself, the easiest way to identify, are you experiencing such emotions, is to identify this hesitation. When you find yourself hesitating, stop yourself there and ask, why am I hesitating? What am I looking forward for? Why is this getting harder for me? And when you ask that question, you will be able to identify where these thoughts might be originating out of. The easiest solution is peer interaction. So talking to people who have been in the field, who are experiencing the same sort of difficulties. You may not have the solutions to your struggles, but can you have a place or you have a person you can sit and brainstorm and identify more solutions. So it's a good idea to do it as a group effort. If you have a mentor, if you have a superior who's been through this, then asking them for guidance is another option as well. Other professional input. So the most simplest or the most ideal solution for this is, if you, and since you are a financial advisor, you are part of the financial advisor community, is to go beyond just talking just about savings, and also help the client as well as yourself restructure the financial system as well, the personal financial system of the individual. So a lot of aspects which we have credited as wants, so as needs, could actually be wants. In the sense, a very typical example would be the Swiggy itself. Till this pandemic is complete, do reshuffle how you see financial expenses, and help your clients do the same. If they need any additional services, either from a support system like a psychologist or a doctor or a lawyer and so on and so forth, do make sure that you have contacts that you can refer them to, so that they feel that you are in a position to help provide solutions to whatever difficulties they may have. And of course, do take peer support, because we are all in the same boat, and it's good to know that we are able to support each other. So breaking the news to clients. If you have clients who have been investing for a while now, and if they have if their shares or if their investments can be very difficult, so how do we break the news to the clients, which is a very important part? And personal preparedness, what do we look for? The first and the most crucial thing is, it depends on how much time you spend with your client explaining and breaking the news. It comes down to that. So if you're going to have a conversation, make sure you have time to do all 6 of the following. The first is, please prepare beforehand. What is it that we're going to say? How are we going to say it? And what are we trying to communicate through this? Second is time to relate. Before actually breaking the information, take some time, identify what they are doing, how they are managing, and what are the different worries that they seem to be having before even addressing the reality of what their savings looks like. Next is take time to convey. So taking time to convey would mean where where they initially started, what caused the dip of the market, and what are the pertinent places where it is relevant to them, and so on and so forth. Take time to support. Most clients, when they initially hear the news, will extrapolate, like I mentioned earlier, about what does this mean for their future. So take time to support them through it. Make sure they understand that this is a temporary phase and that it's a part of the survival, so that they are able to understand and give them the time to assimilate the information as well. Take time to assist them. Identify what are the personal needs that the person might need extra, either in terms of talking to family or in terms of seeking out additional support and so on. Take the time and do assist them, and then take time to lead, which is where do we move from now, how do we move from now. Take time to lead. So if you're able to do all six, you will realize that the client is able to respond much more better to the entire situation, and will be more willing to take the necessary steps they need to take to support themselves as well as their investments. Next is managing clients' emotions. So this is what exactly do people want. It's all about who and how they trust. So like if I'm sick, I would definitely want my doctor to be present, not a doctor, but I want my doctor to be present. If I'm in trouble, I want my lawyer to be present. If I'm feeling down, I want my companion, whether it's a friend, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a relative. I want my companion to be present. And when I'm in debt, I want my financial advisor. The reason why we always focus on my is who I trust, who I know that when I'm in an emotionally compromised position will take the necessary decisions, and will be able to will be able to communicate the same to me in a way that I know it's going to work for my benefit. So that is very, very important. And currently it's important that we're able to maintain that as well. So, a typical bad news, whether it is health related, this is a very common uh, cycle that we see with a lot of people who are terminally ill, and something that we also notice in other areas of crisis, is that people go through a phase in which they understand or assimilate bad news. The first is definitely shock and denial. What do you mean this is happening? How can this happen? This is not happening to me. I know it's happening outside, but it's not related to me in any way. A lot of shock and denial does definitely come there. They have difficulty acknowledging the news, and the more we stress on it, you realize that the person is getting more and more upset. So it's very important that we're able to break it into smaller chunks, have probably more frequent conversations to help them take the news a little better. Or if you feel that the client is able to handle the full thing, you can definitely sit longer and help the person understand. The next, from shock and anger, as information starts to kind of get into their consciousness, what usually you can express is a lot of anger and frustration. So anger and frustration is a very interesting emotion, mainly because it happens two ways. They can either direct it at themselves, or they can direct it to the surroundings. So if it's themselves, they're like, how can this happen to me? This is not what I wanted. I've never hurt anybody or cheated anybody. This is so unfair, and so on. Frustration is frustration can also be external, where they can have a tendency to react negatively to the person who is conveying the news itself, saying, I'm already suffering so much, I don't want to hear this, how can you do this to me, and so on and so forth. So understand that it's a part of the emotional cycle. It's not meant as a personal vendetta against the person who's listening. It's just a way of expressing a lot of grief. So identify it and acknowledge that the person is in pain can go a long way, as opposed to trying to protect or defend your decisions. And the best way to do that is through conversation and being able to allocate that time. Then after the anger and frustrations period goes, then comes the sadness or depression phase, where they feel extremely helpless. A lot of what we're going through is a period of helplessness, where we don't know which rock to turn to get a solution, or how long we have to wait. So there's definitely going to be a lot of helplessness that comes, and wanting a way out but not finding that way out. And also, they are more open to discussing solutions and other options to help get past this phase when they're in the period of sadness, or they have passed the period of aggression. It's only after all of this is there a level of acceptance. Acceptance is when it's like, okay, now I know there's really nothing else I can do, let's sit and discuss. So this is very common in anybody who's going through a crisis, which is what we have also been going through, which is what is that, which is what your clients you can also expect your clients to go through. A very typical example would be the entire riots that's happening in Russia, US, and so on. They're all in the aggression and frustration phase where they're not able to accept the news. So it becomes as a cycle, and that's how it can continue. So looking forward, how you can go about it is, first and foremost, do understand your emotions. Your emotions itself can provide a whole host of ways in which you can understand and relate to your client as well. So understanding your emotions, though and please do make sure that there is a way you can demarcate your emotions from your client's emotions as well. If you feel that whatever your experience is pulling into your ability to talk to your client, do seek out support, do talk to your colleagues, and make sure that that doesn't happen, because the clarity is your fundamental rock. As long as you're able to maintain the clarity, you will be able to extend that clarity to those around them as well. Communication is very important. Either you can be available to have the conversation, or you constantly update them on what is happening. Constant communication can help maintain a perspective for the client as well, and also helps you stay aware of what is happening. Constant communication can also help you understand whether your client is getting ahead of themselves, or if we are getting ahead of ourselves. That's very important as well. Multi-professional assist team is very important, whether in terms of, like I had mentioned, different professionals, your psychologist, your coach, your life coaches, someone who can sit down, accountant, auditors, all of them. Make sure that you have access to all of them so that you can help the client immediately when they need it. Peer interaction and goal orientation. So we are all in a place of disruption. And how has disruption helped us is that we have found new novel ways in which we can cope. A very typical example would be online webinars and seminars and conversations. So there is definitely ways. They are not ways which we conventionally look into. So peer interaction and goal orientation can definitely be a way in which we can, work through the disruption as well. If your client is aware that you're willing to sit down and problem solve with them, they are also going to be willing to cooperate, and similarly within the peer circle as well. So do reach out, do continue to have conversations, and then you can take it forward. So this is essentially the end of my talk. Thank you so much for your patient listening. If there's any questions, then I can answer them.
Thank you, Purnima. Thank you for that wonderful, setting the stage for how we need to deal with this pandemic. Very, very useful. Before we get into the questions, I would like all of us to kind of start your video so that you can come on the screen. We'd like to just take a shot so that all of us are visible.
Yes.
To all of us. It'll be nice to take a good shot, and I'm going to take a few shots of this for record. This is the first time we are doing, so let's kind of get this on the camera as well. So there are still a lot of people not yet unmuted their cameras. So I would request all of you all to please come out on the cameras and then be visible so that we can see you. And so please mute yourself so that Purnima, can you also kind of stop your screen share, and so that you become visible to us? Many
are you not? 1 second.
So most of us.
I have taken it off screen share, but
okay.
I'm not sure. There's a couple of windows. There's 3 windows here.
Yeah. Speaker view. So you're finally visible to all of us. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to take this.
मनीष 4 आंसर का बता बोलो सुबला होता 4 जने आंसर का बता मां
So can we all please mute mute ourselves 1 second? Let me just check how can I mute.
बराबर
Yeah. So I have a question here. Yeah. So I think we're muted. So there is K. Sriram who has asked a question. 2001 and 2008 we had falls, but the time client had their activity for only market fall for that certain period, but the market is also falling now and clients are worried, will they get salary or not in this situation? People are afraid of investment due to lockdown in our country. This is not like earlier scenario, 2001, 2008, totally different scenario. We also have our own EMIs and problems, so it becomes difficult. I am unable to understand what the question is, but I think the anguish that he's trying to raise is that as financial advisors, Purnima, we are constantly having to, clients expect us to know it all, right? So when something goes down, when markets are down, people come back to us and say, when will the market go back up, right? And a pandemic like this, we have very limited knowledge. We are not soothsayers. We are not gods to predict what's going to happen. So there's a lot of anxiety with which, and like you rightly mentioned somewhere in your presentation, one is we ourselves are anxious about our own business going down. And yet we need to be confident about how we talk to clients so that they derive confidence from us. So is there something that we can do, or is there something, is there a magic pill that you would recommend us to do so that we can kind of appear confident irrespective of the current scenario? I think that's the question.
I completely understand. This is very difficult to kind of predict in any way. No one would have even thought that oil would go below $0, and it's very difficult to, even anticipate this. What's very important is that first and foremost, when the client definitely asks you these questions, don't immediately rush into giving an answer. The reason is part of the question is coming from the concern of what the actual market is. Part of the concern is actually the real concern is coming from, am I going to be broke? So I think what they want to know is that because the period is uncertain and it's difficult for the client themselves to understand or relate to, what they do expect to understand from their financial advisors is, at any point, worst case scenario, will I go broke? That's the only question they want an answer to. So the best way to answer this question is to be honest, and honesty in the sense that because the market is uncertain and is extremely volatile at this situation, despite the fact that we are not able to predict exactly where the market is going, one way we can definitely we assure you, is to constantly stay in touch and let you know where it goes. And we will be able to provide you what information is right now, and we will work together to see what is the best time in which your the money that you have put will come back, in a positive, either break even or will get better. But we all are constantly monitoring it, and we will continue to monitor it. Feel free to ask us at any time. That's all the person needs to know. What the concern of the client becomes is that because markets are tanking, are the people that who I've trusted going to bail away from me? That's the concern that's there. But if you constantly provide this reassurance, and most of your clients will feel comfortable to relate and have the conversation back. They will not be able to talk about any of this with anybody else other than you. So please do be available and please do communicate.
Thank you, Purnima. Valuable advice. Keep communicating is the message. Thank you so much. Ganesh Ramurthy has a question which I'm going to read out. Madam, what in your opinion is the key challenge that we need to address now while interacting, as we are either virtual or speaking over phone? Without meeting a person in person, how can we be more effective in communicating our thoughts? Can you share a few thoughts, please?
So what I found to be pretty effective is to allow the other person to talk and discuss their situations first. So whether it is about their current investment or about any future investment, it's a very good idea to initially allow them to talk so you have a context in which they are functioning. And based on that context, it makes it much more easier to help provide your client a better way forward, whether it is smaller investments now, larger ones later, or do the investment earlier and so on and so forth. Because it is virtual or it is over the phone, the only thing that you will be able to provide that can improve the quality of your services is being able to allocate that time.
Thank you so much, Purnima. Thank you so much. Uh, Srinivasan has a question. Our business is nothing but trust. Will such events disrupt that thought, as people do not want to see loss in their portfolio? So the question is, people call us because they want to make a little better return than what they can make by themselves. Bank deposits give them 5-6%. They call us because they believe we can give them 10-12% return. And these kind of pandemics sometimes, makes them feel that, did I make a mistake reaching out to my advisor because my value of my portfolio is down and I'm at a loss?
Mm-hmm.
How is that trust deficit factor can be handled better? Is there a way we can handle this better? I know that you may be repeating yourself from the presentation, but please do.
So one of the ways is probably the first and foremost thing is for us ourselves to remain calm. So often such kind of questions can feel like you're being pushed to answer them and being pushed to give them a ready-made solution or made to give promises that you don't otherwise feel. And that's when the concern starts to be present. What you all also have to be aware is that the client, when they have taken up this decision, is also that they are aware that such risks exist. They may not be able to, put a label to it saying that because of pandemic that there is a drop in the market, but they know that there are things that can happen which can cause a drop in the market. What is important that they need to be they need to know is it a good time to take out money? Is it a good time to put in money, or is this a good time to wait? If you are able to give them any one of these options, the trust factor will continue. Because what happens most often is when the person is seeing a negative slope in their profile, the first thing that happens is they start to become very emotionally compromised. So they don't know whether they're thinking or whether they're taking the right decisions. So your calmness and your direction of moving forward is what will help them continue to give the trust. Despite doing this, you might have a fall of, let's say, 1% or 2% of your client rate, but that is normal. They will come back. From my experience, what I've realized is that initially at that point, they might never really a complete loss of trust.
Thank you, Purnima. One question I wanted to ask, being the moderator of this event, it's I will take that privilege. So we're all working out of home, which is completely new to us, right? And we don't have in the office environment. I get into office at 9 o'clock till 6. It's a very scheduled, planned day. But in this pandemic, we're working from home. A lot of this is, a mess. Suddenly I'm going to go down. I feel like relaxing. I feel like going to bed. So on and so forth. Is there a set of, do you have a checklist, or do you have some tips for people who are working out of home as how can you be more productive? Is there something that we can do about our mind to stay more fresh and more active working from home? Hello?
Thing that happens is the environment in which we are automatically provides a sense of discipline that we have to do. Either because when we go there, there's a much lesser distraction, or if you're working as a team or a whole, everyone's doing the same thing. So the environment is charged to say, okay, if I'm coming here, this is exactly a lot of the routine or a lot of the day-to-day work heavily depends on your own perceived. The immediate aspect from, like, let's say a spouse is usually is very busy at work. He's now at home, so he's on mind. That, or if you have younger children, and we ourselves to some extent will be like, now I have time to spend with my family and my friends, and I have time to watch a movie. Let me go ahead and do that. So what's very important is, though you're not, I'm 9 to 5 definitely possible, is a productive level of, let's say, at least a 9 to 2 or a 9 to 4. We can definitely be productive, but it heavily depends on discipline. So similar things that you do as you would do when you're going to work, let's say getting up on the same time, starting work on the same time, dressing for, work environment and so on. Such kind of non-verbal communication can help other members of the family also realize you are focused on what you're doing, and therefore that boundary will start to set itself. But it becomes a matter of practice, and it becomes a matter of habit. And
Super.
once that is set, then you will definitely be able to maintain that routine.
Thank you, Purnima. One last question. We're completely out of time, but I'm going to take one last question more. Pale Vijay Krishna has given a question. Common worries with clients now. So earlier to the pandemic, the markets were a little high, and clients could be asking, why have you not booked profit before the market started falling? Obviously, we didn't know markets are going to fall, but this is the main hesitation that we have when we talk to clients. How do we handle this scenario? Before we actually did any profit booking for the client, the market has fallen off. And now going in talking to the clients is such a big problem because we are unable to kind of relate with, defend ourselves. So what do you suggest we do?
So this is very difficult. I do understand this can be very, very difficult and crucial. The best way is to walk them through your individual thought process. So if it was a single, or if it was a single person who has made that error and so on, you can definitely marginalize it. But it's a very common experience that everyone is going through. So it's very important that you're able to explain to the client your individual thought process for them, right? If they are expecting a profit and so on for their investment, it's also important to let them know that once the thought process that you've had, or how you've planned the whole finances, and the point at which the information that was made available to you that the markets is going to drop had come post the actual decline, you also have to explain why you chose not to sell at that point as well, you know so it's not just about not selling before, but even when you notice that things are coming down, it's important what was the analogy or thought process that went through why you chose not to sell now. And if they want a profit, what is a time that they can definitely estimate it in the future. So definitely estimate again is difficult right now, but we will maintain it in a way that you get the returns at that particular point.
Thank you so much, Purnima, for that wonderful,
That
explaining the way in which we can relate to clients. You.
is the only. Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No. We couldn't hear you.
No. So I was just, I just wanted to play. My internet is a little unstable, so please bear with me. I just wanted to thank you on behalf of all the IFA Galaxy team and the participants in this webinar for that wonderful session. Thank you so much on all our behalf. Very, very big thank you. And thank you for sparing time. Friends, please do visit Purnima on Facebook, Purnima Rajan on Facebook. She has a website, purnimarajan.com. So do visit her. If there's anything that you would like to have more clarity on specifically, she'll be more happy. I'm using that privilege on your behalf to make it, Purnima. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much for the
Yeah. So on behalf of IFA Galaxy friends, I wanted to give you also thank all of you all for sparing time to be. Like Purnima mentioned, these are very important times for us to engage with one another. You know, the pandemic is something that we cannot control, but we can all come together, share our experiences, and get strength from one another. And that's really the initiative that we are trying to do here. So I hope to see you back on Friday. We have another interesting speaker, Sham Shekhar, who is an IFA who runs this advisory service, iThought Advisory. So one of the leading financial advisors in the country is going to be with us, and he's going to share the experience of what it is between 2020 pandemic and 2008, the financial market crisis. He's going to compare and contrast between the two. I think it'll be a fantastic exercise. It will be an exercise for Tamil viewers as well. So Sham is a great speaker in Tamil. So we should expect a lot of action from him on Friday. Same time, 3 to 4 on Friday. The mail will come to you. You need to register for it. And please join us on Friday for one another exciting session from IFA Galaxy's webinar. Thank you so much for now. Stay safe. Maintain social distancing, wear a mask, don't go out unless it's absolutely necessary. And I'm sure we will all ride this out great. Thank you once again, Purnima, from all of us. Have a lovely day and a lovely year ahead.
Thank you so much and wishing you the same.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye.
Bye.